Hey guys, before I start the video, I just wanted to clarify a few things. If you're on the Xbox One platform and you need help, I do apologize if I'm not able to help you off stream or on stream. The reason if I turn you down it is because I have to do technical late game things and Warframe like Eidolons and Kuva farming in order to make platinum to keep things on the store for my reward system. So please don't be upset if I'm unable to play with you. It's nothing against you. It's just stuff that I have to do to make sure that I keep serving you guys as Twitch followers and YouTube subscribers. So please remember to drop a follow on my Twitch channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to turn on the notifications. If you want more consistent communication with me, just follow the Discord, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Xbox, even though I'm not entirely sure how that works yet. Follow me on Twitch, and if you're curious as to how my giveaways work, just remember you could go straight to my Twitch channel, check out the commands list, and descriptions will be all over the place for you for whatever you want to learn. So thank you guys so much for listening, and on to the video. Hey guys, WolfRunner25 here, back with another Warframe video, and today we're going to explore all of the frames that are best for the index. Now, a quick disclaimer before I start explaining all of the different frames, all of their builds and everything. These are probably going to be the most practical builds, and for all frames, you don't necessarily need the primed version of the prime mods that I have, and I'm going to do my best to explain the build. I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it on screen probably for a few seconds because I don't want this video to be too long, too overwhelming, explaining builds and everything. So I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet and to the point. But before I do get into the frames, there are two particular weapons that I prefer to take to the index, and that's a Tigress Prime or something else that has like really high damage output, like maybe a Rubico Prime or some sort of sniper rifle or shotgun, something that just deals really good consistent damage or a lot of damage all in one shot, possibly like another shotgun. But Tigress Prime and maybe an Opticore Vandal or Opticore, whichever you have. This is my build for the Opticore Vandal if you guys just wanted to check that out real quick. I'm not the best at building Opticore or Opticore Vandal for that matter, so just try and experiment around with different kinds of builds for them. But enough of the weapons, or actually let me explain my Martatron real quick. The Martatron, if you don't have it, you get it from Baruch. You can probably get it on the market for 100 platinum, I think. Probably. It's going to cost you a slot, but it has a 3 disposition, but it still does absolutely insane damage. I love this little thing. It's a toaster of destruction, so you could probably get a Riven pretty cheap off the market, like maybe 25, 50 platinum, because it's like not a very big popular weapon, but that's what I prefer to use. Martatron, Opticore Vandal, Tigress Prime, stuff that just deals really good initial damage with just the one shot. So we're going to start off with our first frame, and that is going to be Rhino Prime. You're going to want as much strength and duration as possible. The reason for that is because you want to utilize your Iron Skin. You can't just go for a max strength build. You can get it to like 300% power strength, but this is the build I use for Rhino if I'm taking him to the index. I want the long duration for if I'm using Roar. And also something about every single build that you're going to see. I have Arcane Guardian, and I have the 2 Umbral mods on most of my frames, so if you haven't finished the Sacrifice quest yet, definitely try and do that before you get to the index, because in my previous video explaining how index works, like I said, if you're somebody who's getting carried, you're probably not going to have a lot of these mods, but I think that's why I always try to explain people, don't worry too much about making tons and tons of credits. Just focus on primarily getting through the star map first. But this is my Rhino Prime build. If you want to copy and paste it, that's fine. Like I said, you don't necessarily need the prime variants of these mods. So there is Rhino. Next up is Valkyrie Prime, aka Valkyr Prime. Same kind of weapon setup, Tigress Prime Martatron. This is my build for her. Lots of strength and duration as well. She is meant to be a tank / DPS type of frame, and I also put an Umbral mod into her because I wanted to put all the Umbral mods on her. And maybe you don't necessarily have to have the Umbral mods, it's just the set bonus you get from it is really nice. Maybe you won't need Hunter Adrenaline. You could go for Adaptation, replace that with Narrow-Minded maybe, because Valkyr doesn't really need range. Kind of experiment around with Valkyr. I'm like, for all of these builds, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't expect them to be the absolute best for the index or the best in the game for that particular frame. I say that in all of my videos, so don't take this to heart as the absolute best build for the index. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, what a lot of people essentially use for index is Mesa, Rhino, Wukong, Revenant, and I think Limbo. But times have changed. I've seen a lot of different other kind of combinations. But that was Valkyr Prime. I'll give you one last good look at that. Now we're going to move on to my Mesa Prime. Now this build, Mesa Prime, you are going to need this. You absolutely need Arcane Velocity for Mesa. The reason for that is because rank 3 on critical hit, 60% chance for plus 80% fire rate to pistols for 6 seconds. That works for her regulators, and it's insane. It works really well. She can deal a crap ton of damage. I only have one format into her because I don't want to put 2 more and like taking this off. I just like, this has been my Mesa build for like eons now. Don't have a melee weapon equipped because it gives you a little bit extra health if you have no melee weapon equipped. And since her passive, shoot dual wielded firearms 50%. Shoot dual wielded sidearms 50%.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Shoot dual wielded sidearms 15% faster and reload single-handed sidearms 25% more rapidly. Again, 50 bonus health when not using melee weapons. 50 health doesn't sound like a lot, but in certain situations it can really help you out. So, like I said, that's my build for her. And Garuda. I have not really seen a lot of people run with Garuda on the index, but it just kind of popped into my mind because she's meant to be another tank frame. And I also have all the Umbra mods put into her as well, and she's meant to be a tank, and with her first ability, Dreadmere, she can absorb the damage, so anything that's facing towards your way is going to be nullified, and it's going to increase the damage combat multiplier, or damage capture multiplier, I'm sorry, and you can like use that as like a little mini bomb against the enemies that are in index. So I thought maybe Garuda would be kind of a good change up if you're trying to run index with this. This is my build for her. Pretty simple, and I don't have the prime flow on because I don't have enough polarity to allow it since I have all the Umbra mods on her, but that's her build. Next up, we have Gara, and the reason for Gara is because her second ability, Splinter Storm, gives you 90% damage reduction. So couple that with Adaptation and Arcane Guardian, and you get a pretty good tankiness. You'll be doing DPS though. You won't be carrying the points like you would with other tank frames like Rhino or Valkyr or whatever. If you have some of these frames preferably over the other frames and you just want to experiment around with it, that's the primary reason for this video, is to just give you an idea of all the other kind of particular frames that you can use. And you'll notice on every frame that I have, Arcane Guardian, I think I said this already, I probably did, like, you really should get this. Get into Eidolons and get Arcane Guardian. If you don't want to do Eidolons, if you're pretty far away from it, you can probably get it off the market for like 200 platinum right now. But this is my build for Gara. And now we move on to Nezha. I haven't used Nezha in like a really long time. I forgot, like, after he got a rework, some of his augments were kind of reworked, and some of his abilities were reworked. He's actually a pretty good frame, I'm not gonna lie. Like, his ability Warding Halo is pretty good, and you could also put on the augment for Warding Halo, which is, like, allows you to give it to your allies, and it gives it, like, a certain percentage of power strength to them, or a certain amount of damage reduction. So, like, you're trying to carry. Now that I think about it, Nezha would be a great carry frame. If you're trying to carry other players in the index, definitely take Nezha with that augment on. I think you get his augment from New Loka or Red Veil, maybe like 10 or 15 platinum if you don't have the syndicate standing, or if you're not currently with that current syndicate. But this is my build for him. And to clarify, I have never used this. This is Ember. This is Ember Prime. Ember Prime, whichever you prefer. I have never tried this out on the index, but since she got her rework, she can get up to a total of 90% damage reduction with her fire meter. So I like to use Immolated Radiance, so it's another good way to help your allies. Immolation to augment allies within affinity range will see 50% of Immolation's damage reduction. So another kind of like Nezha-y kind of way to run. And the strength and the efficiency will help you like keep staying relevant in the run as long as your weapons can keep up with the damage. But like I said, you'll be doing damage with this build, you will not be carrying points. It's always going to be up to a Rhino, or should I dare say Gara, because of her good amount of damage reduction, to be consistently picking up points. There are other frames that I'm going to say that are good for picking up points. Just give me a little bit, but this is my Ember Prime build. And if you really want to make sure that you never die, just use Wukong. Wukong is he is the only frame I've ever been able to take on a 2-hour solo run, but that's because I just don't experiment and play around with a lot of different builds and combinations and everything. So this is the cool thing about Wukong's doppelganger. His celestial twin, it's like an aimbot pretty much. So if whatever weapons you're using with Wukong, I'd use my Rubico, my Marutatron. Sometimes I change that up with my kit gun. This is my Rubico Prime build I use for Eidolon hunts mainly. The radiation damage deals extra damage to the armored units in the index. So it deals a crap. My twin is going to be like auto firing. I dare say that you could do it solo with Wukong. You could probably do it solo with Rhino, Wukong, Inaros. Those are the 3 main frames you could probably solo index with. But I'm trying to give you guys all of these builds to make sure that if you, like I said, if you don't have internet, if you don't have Xbox Live, if like you're not allowed on PlayStation or online on PC or whatever, definitely pick up Wukong or Wukong Prime. You can get regular Wukong at your clan's dojo. But one more quick look. This is my build for him. We're going to move on to the next frame. So, the newest frame, Grendel, who is another freaking powerhouse / tank. You could probably do it solo with Grendel as well. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. The only reason I say that is because he has a lot of health, he has a lot of armor, and fitting adaptation with Arcane Guardian, and he's going to be another absolute tank. You can pick up the points consistently, and if you're still afraid that you're going to die, you can use Vazarin Protective Dash. What Protective Dash does, allies hit by Void Dash are granted immunity from damage for 5 seconds, and healed 60% over 5 seconds. So say if you're getting really low on health and you think you're about to die, drop a bunch of index points, you can just dash through your frame, heal them, and then go about your lollygagging day. And the cool thing is, since you'll be taking damage, just switch config, I'm going to do that. When Hunter Adrenaline is on, then you'll be gaining consistent energy, even if your energy is going down while you're the point holder. Now, if you have the Umbral mods, I really want to say you could maybe exchange this kind of build, and the reason I say that is because you'll have even more health and more armor because of the set bonus with Umbral Vitality and Umbral Fiber. I've been thinking about maybe putting another format into him, but you could actually make Grendel pretty universal, but those were the 2 ideal builds for Grendel if you want to run with him on the index. Now, quick note, some people might say, why didn't you mention Nidus? Why didn't you mention Nidus? It's because he doesn't have much base health. His ability and his ability set relies on building stacks. So maybe if you had 2 Arcane Grace sets, you could probably do it with Nidus. I have seen some people carry points and solo with Nidus, but that's if you have 2 Arcane Grace and they're one of the most expensive and rarest arcanes to get in the game. If you want to try and use him, this is my build for it. Again, experiment with this. I don't claim Nidus to be the greatest for index just because Inaros would be a much better option, but if you want to try it, this is my build for him. Next up, we have Baruch. I kind of got him looking a little bit like a Power Ranger, and he's probably saying, please kill me, because he looks ridiculous. Don't hate on my fashion frame. And the reason I say Baruch is because his first ability lets you evade all incoming projectiles, and based on your ability range, that will affect the absolute radius of what all he can dodge. All of his abilities synergize pretty well of being able to survive and not take damage. So I didn't really even see a point of putting adaptation on him. I just kind of wanted to mainly focus on his abilities and making sure that his abilities keeps him alive as often as possible. He only has 637 health. And now that I think about it, maybe he could pick up points since he's not being hit by the enemy, because with the loot, with the power strength and the duration and everything, 325 degree angle, drain 25, drain per second. If you wanted to be an absolute pacifist like you're supposed to be with Baruch and using elude the entire time, you'd never have to deal any damage. You just let your teammates deal the damage. So maybe you could be a point carrier / taunting tank, maybe? I guess would be the kind of the way to put it. Maybe rely on your Serene Storm if you're feeling ballsy. This is my build for him. Again, I don't ever claim any of my builds to be the absolute best. I still have to do a lot of experimenting to do a more frame. It's just I'm focusing more on trying to get stuff for you guys to give away during streams. Next frame, we have Revenant, and I haven't done any fashion framing on him yet because I literally just got finished leveling some of these frames, particularly for this video, because I really don't like a lot of the newer frames, because I really don't feel like we need them, but that's a conversation for a different time. Or you can always check out that video, 10 reasons why we don't need new frames. But this is my build for him. Adaptation, Arcane Guardian, pretty simple, pretty explanatory. 4 forma. It took 4 forma for me to make sure that I could have him optimized well for the index. So the reason some people run Revenant is because of his ability called Mesmer Skin, and it basically makes you invulnerable to damage. What am I saying? Damage, and the number of charges is 12.3. So you're immune to damage entirely for up to 12 hits. Because Revenant is meant to be like Nyx and Rhino kind of put together, along with like a draining effect. So maybe if you wanted to try and enthrall people in the index, it would be kind of interesting. Maybe, I don't know. But I think Revenant probably is one of the best frames for the index because number 1 of Mesmer Skin, number 2 of Enthrall, so maybe you could enthrall the people that were in the index if they're affected by it. Reeve, you could just gain some of your life back, and you can use that Vazarin class like I was talking about earlier. Dance Macabre, you're not really going to use that. In Index, you're going to rely on these 3 abilities primarily. Again, real quick, this is my build for him. Energize isn't necessary, it's just something I was playing around with when I was leveling him up. The Guardian Adaptation, again, always get those. If you don't know how to get Adaptation, you get it from Arbitrations. If you don't know how to go to Arbitrations, complete every single node of the star map. And next up, we have a Speed Nova. And the reason I say Speed Nova is because with this particular setup, it speeds up the enemies so it can possibly speed up the rounds. So if you're with a very good team, it's going to help speed up the rounds for you and your teammates and possibly help you gain credits a lot faster. Definitely go with this build. You're really going to want Arcane Guardian, Arcane Aegis, Adaptation, and Prime Vigor because you want to be making sure that you're staying alive. You're going to need good survivability because Nova doesn't have very good survivability, so this is my build for her. Like, I would really try and copy this to a T. The Prime Vigor, I know a lot of you guys aren't going to have because of the login bonus, or daily login bonus. I think you have to be at 300 or 400 to get Prime Vigor. You could always just go regular continuity and regular flow, but the Guardian and Aegis, the Aegis regenerates your shield like when you get hit for a certain amount of time. Let me see what it actually says. On damage, 6% chance for 60% or 60 shields for 20 seconds plus 1 arcane revive. So that helps her keep alive. And you want to be running Zeneric because it's not that you're not gonna be doing damage. You can do damage since you have a decent weapon. What I used to do with Nova was I used to throw out my antimatter drop, shoot it with the Tiger's Prime, and have the large range. It would actually still deal crap ton of damage even with the low power strength. But the main focus for this build is for you to speed up the enemies and make the rounds a little bit faster, if you're with a good group. And if that is the case, use Zeneric. Don't use Vazarin. I would definitely say use Zeneric to keep making sure you can use that 4th ability. And next up, you wouldn't think, it is Banshee Prime. And the reason for Banshee Prime is because her 2nd ability, Sonar, number 1, reveals enemies on the map, so it makes it easier for your allies to find them, and number 2, the damage multiplier, there's a spot that reveals on the enemy's body, so it makes them deal a crap ton more damage if you just simply shoot that point. So this is my build for her. You want as much survivability as possible. Again, Adaptation, Arcane Guardian, Vitality, Prime Vigor. You want to make sure you can take those hits and you can stay alive. If you want to be ballsy, you can use your 3rd ability called Silence with Arcane Ultimatum. It's kind of an expensive arcane. On finisher, 100% chance for 600 armor for 20 seconds. So the Ultimatum and the Guardian put together, that's 1200 armor plus her base armor 65 plus Adaptation. It's a good way to survive as well. But you want to be running Zeneric when you do this because you need to be consistently using that Sonar spam to make sure you reveal the enemies and reveal multiple weak points on the enemy. And next up, we have Ash Prime. And the reason for Ash Prime is because of his augment called Fatal Teleport. Teleport will perform a finisher on the target, dealing 200% extra damage, 50% of energy cost is refunded on a kill. So you can insta-kill any organic type enemy in the index, but the mechanical ones, like the Moa, the Raptor, the Auditor, the 002 ER, it's not going to work on those. It's not going to work on those particular enemies, so anybody like Jad Terran, Dareem Zahn, or like all the other humanoid type enemies in the index, you can instantly one-shot them with Fatal Teleport. So don't be a point carrier. Definitely just be a killer slash damage dealer. Run with Zeneric. Make sure you can confidently stay alive with Ashe. You want this kind of duration and strength and efficiency because you're going to be spamming your third ability Teleport to proc the Fatal Teleport. The duration, you know, if you're invisible, you're not going to take damage, and hopefully you're not going to die unless you're getting caught up in the chaos. Next up, we have Limbo or Limbo Prime, whichever you prefer, and the reason for this is because you can guard the goal. You can actually keep the goal guarded if you want to be passive on these runs. Like if you're being carried and you think you can somewhat mirror this build, because a lot of these mods are pretty much base mods except for adaptation and narrow-minded, you can just keep the goal up using Cataclysm and Stasis, his 2 and 4. As long as you can keep gaining energy through Zeneric, you can actually just keep your goal guarded, make sure that the enemy doesn't score, and just kind of sit back, relax, and let your allies do some of the work. And next up, we have the fastest frick boy! Lots and lots of speed, so you can get around the map pretty easily, and you can also tank pretty well because of adaptation, Arcane Guardian, and his second ability called Kinetic Plating. Generate armor plating that converts a portion of absorbed kinetic damage, physical heat, cold, and blast into energy. Also protects Gauss from being staggered or knocked down. Damage resistance is relative to the battery level. So you'll see when that's going on, you'll see that battery on the bottom right corner of your screen, and if that's up all the way, that means you have 90% damage reduction, and if you use Redline, you can get it to 100% damage reduction, aka pretty much God mode. You can take literally no damage. Gauss is just, I don't like a lot of new frames because, like I said, I just don't, there's a lot of things in Warframe that need to be rebalanced or whatever, but Gauss is pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. I love using his Mock Rush ability. I think it's pretty neat. He doesn't need much range, he mainly just needs strength and duration, but this was my build for him. It took 3-4 minutes to put into him. That's why he's not fashion framed, just because I just wanted to make sure some of these guys were level for when I made this video. But this is my build for him. And we're coming up on our second to last framed Sandboy, aka Inaros. So I need another Umbral Forma to put into him before I can make sure this is all properly filled out and whatever. You need this augment negation swarm because it makes you immune to knockdown. It doesn't say in the description, but it's so insanely useful in index and so many other different kinds of modes if you're trying to last for a long time. All the Ember mods maxed out. Adaptation, Gladiator Resolve gives you more health. Arcane Guardian and Strike, 7,000 health and 585 armor. So lots of armor, lots of health. You can be a damage dealer and point picker upper. And last but not least, our last frame, Excalibur Umbra. So you're going to be a damage dealer with him, and since he has all of these polarities already changed for him, polarities put on him, you definitely want Chromatic Blade that gives your Exalted Blade 100% status chance. I'll show you the build for that in just a second. Hunter Adrenaline because you'll gain energy as you take damage. You want as much energy as possible. Adaptation, more tankiness. Blind Rage, lots of power strength. You don't need efficiency because of Hunter Adrenaline. You'll just be tanky. You can't be knocked down. Excalibur Umbra is probably an extremely good frame. He's a tankier version of regular Excalibur. Pretty short, pretty simplistic. If you're wondering what this is, Arcane Blade Charger. On primary weapon kill, 20% chance for 200% melee damage for 8 seconds. I know a lot of you probably don't do arbitrations or you're not to that point yet, but say if I got a kill with my Tiger's Prime, I could then use my Exalted Umbra Blade and it gives it 200% more damage. And it already does a crap ton of damage as itself. But this is the build for the Exalted Umbra Blade. I wanted to go for as much attack speed as possible with healing return. If they have certain particular status types on them, I'll gain health back for that. And with the Gladiator mods, you can gain more crit chance, but I really don't feel like it's going to matter too much because you're going to be doing it from a distance. Prime Fever Strike is not a necessity. Prime Fury, not a necessity, just something that's preferred because it's going to help you deal more damage. So with Excalibur Umbra, maybe you could stick with Vazarin. Another way to play him is Excalibur Umbra is sentient. So when you transfer out of him with your transference, if you want, you can have that Rubica build that I showed earlier, and he'll pretty much turn into an aimbot just like Wukong's Celestial Twin. So it's pretty cool. But as far as all the frames go, that's honestly all I could come up with for all of these guys. I really hope you guys found this video useful. I'm sorry I didn't have any gameplay in the actual index playing around with these guys, but these are probably going to be the best builds to tank a lot of the damage and pick up the points possibly if you're trying to do index and gain a lot of credits over time. I'm personally waiting for a double credits weekend, so if you have a credit booster and it's double credits weekend, you get quadruple credits. But I wanted to make this video and this guide for all of you who are possibly having trouble figuring out which frame you want to run an index. Again, some of the arcanes aren't a necessity. Arcane Guardian, I want to say is. Maybe you could do it without it. I've seen a lot of MR6s, MR7s running Rhino, just Rhino, and actually doing decently well, staying alive. But you're going to want somebody to carry you. Just go to recruiting chat. There's not that many people on, so if you're on PC or PS4, chances are you probably got a much more populated player base. This was all of my builds, guys. I'm sorry if this took a little bit long. It's a lot of frames. It's a lot of different kinds of frames you can run. Maybe you could run Hildren. I wanted to say her, but her build requires on sapping a lot of shields and energy and life force from enemies, so I don't think she was kind of ideal for it. But if you guys have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comments section below. I stream every single Sunday and Wednesday. I do lots of giveaways. There's going to be links to the social media in the description below. I know it was already said at the beginning of the video, just thought I'd say it again. Hopefully this guide helps you all out, and remember everybody, strive proudly and howl loudly. Good night, everybody.